Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of On the Bump. And on the bump this week, we have Noah McMurrain, aka DerbySluggers. Noah, how are we doing this week?
Doing good, man. Started coaching for the first time this week actually, so it's been fun and been working on always making content every day. So it's been a good week.
Noah, can you please tell everyone and just kind of introduce yourself and kind of say who you are and what your kind of area and expertise is in the baseball niche?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a social media account called DerbySluggers. We're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. That's it. Mainly, I have a Twitter account, but it's not very active. But yeah, so I started making baseball videos. It started like I was just like, kind of like the basic brand of baseball Instagram account where you're just kind of reposting videos. I was using that to build a following, and then I was like, I really want to start creating my own content. And so one of the first things I started doing was men's league videos. I was wearing a GoPro, doing a lot and like setting up guys with microphones, doing lots of videos just with my team. And me and my buddies got together. We made the Derby Sluggers team because we already had the page with the name and everything. And I'm always been into editing videos and everything that goes into that. So um, started editing all those men's league videos, posting them, and they were doing pretty well on Instagram and TikTok and everything. And then I started getting into making other kinds of videos like highlight videos or just funny creative videos. And those were doing really well on TikTok. I know that TikTok's going to be gone in a couple days potentially. We'll see what happens in the long term, if anything changes. But my TikTok has been my most popular account with 100,000, a little over 100,000 followers, which I'm glad I at least hit that before. If it's going to go away, at least I hit that milestone. So
That's awesome. Noah, I was so incredibly excited to meet you at the ABCA convention, which really brings us into the topic of conversation for today. So Noah and I wanted to really just kind of talk to everyone and just kind of break down like our experiences at the ABCA convention. It was such a fascinating, and for me, it was my first time. So it was, a lot of baseball things and
Mhm.
people and just meeting so many different types of areas just kind of all coming together. And so we also made a lot of great memories along the way and we just had it all around a good time. I mean, meeting each other for the first time in person and really just, having those off camera, really personal and, moments that really drive friendships and drive good, meaningful interactions. And that's ultimately why we want to make this episode. So I personally had a fantastic time at the ABCA. It was great meeting so many different types of people, but something in particular that really stood out to me the most was just like how interconnected the baseball community is. And that was something I didn't really realize going into the convention was that all these people know each other. Like everyone's connected in some way, whether that's via social media or past work experience. Everyone's connected in a sense, and that was really, really cool. Just to obviously meet people on a human standpoint, but also talk like media, baseball, and get people's different opinions on, whether that's baseball products or, just baseball as a whole. Just seeing that was really, really cool, at least for me.
So yeah, it was also my first time at the ABCA convention. I hadn't even heard about it until like right after last year's. I found out it was a thing, and I was like, no way, I gotta go to this next year. I was like, when's the next one? Not for another year. And I'm like, oh well, I'll be there. And I would agree to a lot of what you said. I think that when I didn't really know what to expect, I kind of had an understanding of what it was going to be like, and I've heard a bunch of great things about it from people that I asked, who have been, and I it was really cool to see how everyone was connected and just walking around like, oh, I know this person, or oh, I know this company. Like, I absolutely want to go talk to them. And I even would see some former players that now work in the space, or just like a guy like Matt Antonelli, who's also a former player that he has a company, but he has that YouTube channel. And I used to watch a lot of his videos, and it was cool meeting these guys that I had seen for so long, especially when I was younger. and still in high school or even before that potentially, seeing these guys, as like, oh, they're big leaguers and or they do this, they're up here in the baseball community, and I would go just like I'd want a picture with some of these guys, and I got it, and they were like obviously super nice to do it, and it was the interesting thing for me was post picture, got the picture, I'm like, thank you very much, and now I'm usually in this situation, if you take a picture with a celebrity or something like, oh, okay, like thank you, bye. Then it was completely different. Now they're like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, okay. So like, oh, well, that's cool. Where are you from? Oh, yeah, 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 that's awesome. Like they want to talk to you, they want to connect with you because everyone's just trying to make connections there. It's the coolest baseball place I've been. So,
I definitely thought that absolutely with kind of a lot of those different connections and those different types of people, they not only did they want to talk shop, but they also wanted to get to know you on a more human standpoint. That was really cool. But it was also really cool to hear about the different like lines of thinking that these people kind of come up with. So like for different products or like, because when I was networking and connecting with people, I would kind of ask them like, why did you start your company? Like what made your company so special? Like what drove you to do what you're doing now? And there were like a handful of people that I really, just kind of thought and just kind of talked to that were really honest and open about what they were doing. And it was really, really cool to kind of see like, you know, whether they were a former player or a coach or they had some specific memory with baseball or just something in particular that drove them to create whatever they created or product they started doing. So that was really cool. Um, but for me in particular, it was also really cool to see the business side of things as well. I mean, running YouTube is, obviously a business in a sense, but
mhm.
also too just seeing like, oh wow, this is actually like, there's business here. I mean, there's other things that go on besides creating the media, the marketing, the content side of things, talking whether that's about profit margins or whether that's, how to like properly sell something. I mean, it's very interesting in seeing how kind of YouTube and our platform kind of goes into like marketing or valuing that product. So I thought that was really cool as well. I mean, compared to like there were obviously it was a coaches convention, so there's a lot more coaches there and a lot more older players there, but I mean, really, I mean, I probably saw like a handful of younger kids there, but
Mhm.
like I still thought that was, that's really cool that like, even younger kids can get this experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll tell you what, if I had been able to, if someone took me, like my dad or whatever, to the ABCA convention when I was a kid, I would have had a blast. Well, the reason I like the ABCA convention so much is because it made me feel like a kid again. Like it was like I was a kid there, So I can only imagine to be seeing it from that perspective, as such a young kid player that loves baseball to be there I've heard people call it baseball heaven because it's just there's almost every baseball company or like um anyone who's in the coaching space that's big, they're there. And like you said on the business side, like a lot of those companies that are there, they're there for business. Like you never know, like, because there's like different like hit tracks and pitchcom and companies like that, or other niches for different companies in the baseball space where like you never know when, because there's college coaches there, like they could walk up to your booth, talk to you, and next thing you know, the whole program could be using their product or their program or their system. And that's big business for them too. So it's like it was really cool. There's a lot of stuff going down on that trade floor or in that convention in those hallways, that no one even knows about really, but it's going down there, and it's a cool place to be.
So Noah, for you, what was like your favorite product that you saw at the trade show? Like what was the thing that kind of stood out to you the most?
So as far as like a product standpoint and like the different businesses that were there, I saw it was really cool to go talk to the big guys at like Mizuno and All Star and all these different companies. But what I thought was really cool is I got introduced to this guy named Scott Carpenter, and I had no idea who he was, but he's kind of like a big deal in the right group of people, in the right space. He worked with Marucci for gloves, and I he had this catcher's mitt that he made for them. They don't even have them available anymore. I didn't check eBay, but I don't even know if they're like on if they're any or for resale or like you can't get them from what I understand. But it was like a catcher's mitt that was super lightweight, because it wasn't made out of leather, it was made out of something else. And he had one that was brand new, basically, or like not brand new, but not like, oh, like 1 or 2 years of use, and one of 9 years of use, and they looked like the same. And I was like, that was really cool. And that wasn't even what he was there for because he doesn't sell those anymore with Marucci. He's on his own now. He makes these thumb guards for catchers, and I'm a catcher, but I never really used the thumb guard. I've tried them out before. I'm like, this sucks. So it was cool because he came up with this new thumb guard with a lot of technology that went into it. Um, and I tried it on, it's significantly better than any, I would rather not wear a thumb guard before finding out about this. Now that I know about it, I would absolutely get one and wear one. But um, not that the thumb guard itself was the coolest thing, but just him and the mind that he has to create baseball gloves and baseball, inventions it was really cool to meet him and get to know
That's
him.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely meeting a lot of the guys over at Mizuno. I mean, been working with Mizuno for a little bit now, so that was really cool to kind of see them and really see a lot of their other projects that they have in their gloves behind the works. But for me, if I had to choose one like product, well, specifically, let's talk about just product right now.
Mhm.
One specific product that was really cool to really see was there was this small glove company called JH Performance, and their gloves are just so like artsy. I mean, really artsy is the biggest like word I can just define it. Like it's cool and like flashy, but it's not like too flashy and like too
Mhm.
much. It's like a perfect balance. And
Mhm.
so I met the founder of their company. His name's Jake Hale, and it was so cool to really like, just kind of meet him, talk about his story, and just really kind of experience their gloves and everything that they had inside of their booth. That was really, really cool. I mean, everyone there that was showcasing their products was really just really down to earth and like just really good people. I mean, I kind of felt like I was at home with play baseball with, so that was
Yeah.
really, really cool. At least for me, just making that specific business networking and that connection was awesome.
Point I'll make is that I'm sure they were awesome. I didn't even get to see like the whole. There was so much going on. It's so big of a space, especially the trade show. Like I didn't even get to see that company and check out their gloves. Like I would have loved to see every single booth there, and it's possible, but to do that, absolutely. But I didn't even get the opportunity to see every booth, so I didn't even see this company. I'll check them out because that sounds cool and I like to see. But
They're also like a new and upcoming brand, and so I have a couple other things in the works with them right now.
okay,
But if
cool.
you do want to see their logo, we'll be right here for anyone who wants to see that. So everyone go check them out, JH Performance. Um, but no, it was really cool meeting them. It was really cool just overall meeting like all the different types of like baseball glove people, companies. I mean, just putting my hand in different sides of like every glove and really just kind of thinking like, oh man, like what went into creating this specific ball glove. And I mean, I do a lot of reviews on my channel about baseball gloves in particular. So for me, it was like, okay, like this is how it's different from like a Mizuno or a Wilson or a Rawlings, and just kind of envisioning like, like, oh, okay, it's a little easier to squeeze, or this is probably like kind of what I'm getting my first impressions of right there at the show.
Hmm.
So that was pretty cool. There were some also like just other like really cool like people and just figures I got to meet as well. Like I met Tom House, who worked with Randy Johnson, and a couple other Major League Baseball players, but he was there, so it was really cool to kind of see his perspective on pitching and kind of hear about his app store, his app called Mustard. So that was really cool. I got to speak with, a couple people in like Rawlings, Under Armour, Marucci. There were a couple guys with Wilson, so that was, kind of cool to kind of hear their spiel about, their different companies. Obviously, they're bigger, but, you
Hmm.
know, that was still pretty cool. Um, but overall, like, I mean, just I just kind of felt like at the convention, it was just like go, go, go. I mean, there was never like a shortage of like time to
Mhm.
just kind of sit down and just be like, okay, oh, I'm not really doing anything right now.
No,
There
there's
was
always something going on.
Right. Yeah, there's always something going on. And so, that was really like in my opinion one of the coolest things is like there's so many people here that like, you know, I mean the trade show was 3 days and it was like almost like what 4 to 6 hours each day. I mean,
Mhm.
there was like there was no time. There was like no downtime. It was just go go go. I mean, it was so cool.
Yeah, and there was people speaking too throughout the whole conference, and after the trade show, before the trade show, during. And so if you were going to go check out some of those guys, which I was fortunate enough to be able to do, that's even more stuff that's going on. And you got so much that you're trying to cram into those 3 days that you're not chilling out, you're doing something the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, no, I didn't get to check out the talks just because I never had access to those talks. But I know you got to check out some of those. So, what were those kind of coach talks kind of like? Can you talk or elaborate on some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the most part, I know there was a lot of like current college coaches. I know the Tennessee coach was there, and he was like a big hit. I didn't get to see him speak. I saw like a Vandy coach there. I wasn't sure if it was the head coach or not. But someone I was definitely excited to see speak because I've known about him for a while, and I know he was a player, and I know him from social media. CJ Beatty, when I found out he was speaking, I was like, no way. First off, this guy's here and he's going to be talking. And so I made sure to get like a front row for that. And he did like a post speech, whatever, Q&A. And I got to talk to him, meet him, ask him a couple questions. And it was the same thing of like, I've seen this guy, I've known of him for so long. And like he wants to get to know me and what I do. And that was really cool to be able to talk to him and ask him some really cool questions.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard well, obviously I heard from you, but I also heard from my assistant coach who went there. He was telling me about CJ Beatty and that talk, and I was sitting there and I was like, man, I really wish I went to go and see that talk. So CJ Beatty, it's really funny, Noah. I knew about CJ Beatty long before the ABCA this year.
Hmm.
CJ Beatty used to play for a team in the Frontier League called the Washington Wild Things. They're an independent baseball team. And so I was an intern for them 2 years ago. And the night that he got inducted into their Hall of Fame, I was there for. So that was really cool to kind of see, him there at the ABCA, or at least hear about that he was at the ABCA. Because
Hmm.
I was like, wow, that kind of brought me back a little bit. So that was kind of a cool connection, Again, like we talked about, this stuff's all connected in the baseball world. But
Yeah.
I mean, from what I hear, he has a really, really interesting and cool story.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, he's a big inspirational guy, big motivational guy, and like teams bring him out all the time to talk to them, and it's better for he does like all different sports teams, but it's definitely obviously better for baseball. He played in the Cardinals organization and then indie ball and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, he's always got a lot of good things to say and a lot of good nuggets that he's dropping. Just about it was a lot of stuff about coaching because it was a coaches conference. But the best thing was like he was relating it all to life as well. This relates to more than this just coaching. This is everyday life, type of stuff. And in the Q&A after it was a much smaller room compared to the giant conference room. So it felt more intimate and people were able to ask a lot better or more in-depth questions on things that translate on and off the field. So
Did you see any other talks besides his?
I don't think so, to be honest. I may have eavesdropped on a couple. I know I saw a Vandy coach up there talking about hitting, and they had a lot of different pitching, hitting, defense, specialty guys talking about each thing. I didn't get to tune into too many other ones though, no.
So overall, like with the just the trade show and the coaches talks and everything, like I kind of got the sense that obviously like coaches were there to learn and kind of see the new gadgets in the baseball world, but to me it kind of felt like a lot of guys are just kind of hanging out, seeing, okay, these are some things we're interested in, here's some things we're not, but ultimately it was just kind of like a place where everyone kind of just got together and was just like this is one massive like coaches like hangout or something, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they have there's that the last day I think or second to last day they bust out like the drink carts and they're all just drinking. I mean, they it's kind of this how it is. Baseball coaches, they're older guys and they're chill. And that's just kind of how they go. They like to drink a little bit. And so for everyone to be, hanging out, drinking in the trade show, amongst walking around and talking and looking at everything. I thought that was pretty funny and pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty cool seeing like other coaches from I mean obviously there were coaches from other schools that I've played in the past in
Hmm.
college, so that was kind of cool getting to see them and kind of meet them and just put a name to a face or a school to a face. So
Hmm.
that was for me that was pretty cool as well. I mean, overall, like the whole experience of like the ABCA being at like the Gaylord in National Harbor. I mean, National Harbor I've been to before. I mean, it was a really cool experience just seeing like the National Harbor again. I mean, I like DC. I've been there one time before the convention. So just seeing DC and like National Harbor and the big like Ferris wheel and
Hmm.
all the different little restaurants and that
It
that was
snowed a little
pretty
bit.
yeah, that was pretty cool. But I mean, overall, I'd say overall, like it was a really cool place for the ABCA to be. I would have liked to see them have like a little more of like I don't know, like a DC kind of like themed, like if there was like
Hmm.
a little bit more of like I don't
I
know,
think
like
they
a,
could have touched a little more on that. I know what you mean, but
right.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it like I don't know, like if they did something kind of like I mean, I don't know if there were any, US presidents that played baseball in the past.
yeah.
Or like any you know what I mean? Like kind of
Hmm.
play on that a little bit. I feel like that would have probably like that would have been cool. That would have been a cool experience to kind of just
Yeah.
see that put together.
Hmm. No, I agree. I think that's actually would be cool. If I think there was definitely plenty of like at least old pictures of U.S. presidents or whatever playing baseball. And to even if they had like those up or something, when you walk in, I think that would have been a nice touch.
Yeah. So Noah,
But they
did you
still
get
blew
to
it out of the water. Nothing bad to say about the ABCA.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They blew it out of the water complete. I
Hmm.
mean, it was at the Gaylord. The Gaylord's like really really cool hotel and
Hmm.
everything. So, obviously it was a fantastic event all around. Um Noah, else did you get to do? Did you get to visit DC and kind of go outside the hotel and the convention? Like, what else did you get to do?
I did. So I've been to DC multiple times. And I always enjoy everything's free. It's like the best. It's honestly such a great city to go vacation to or tour, because like all the best stuff is basically free. So I went to the National Mall, did a Capitol tour, went through the Smithsonian, American History Museum, Lincoln Memorial, you know, World War II Memorial, Korean, all that stuff. And that's always a cool experience, and I don't ever want to turn down an opportunity to do that. Um, but it was freezing. It was freezing. I had to stop and buy some extra, like a scarf and a beanie and stuff to make sure I didn't, get freeze my ass off out there. Because there's a lot. It's like a 2 mile walk in total getting from the Capitol to the Lincoln Memorial. So, I'm glad I made a stop and picked up some extra clothes for that.
That's awesome. What was your favorite monument that you saw while you were there?
I always like I always like the U.S. History Museum a lot, and I always like doing the Capitol tour. Oh, they were prepping for Jimmy Carter's funeral, and so that was interesting because I haven't seen them ever, change the layout and stuff or like put, prepping everything. It was interesting to see that for sure. Um, and the Lincoln Memorial is always so cool, but it's under construction, so it's like, eh. Um, but uh, but yeah, those are the Capitol is always really cool because you never know if there's going to be like a congressman or someone walking around that you might see too, or you see someone recording it for something for the news. But yeah,
That walk to the Capitol from like downtown is a pretty like that's a pretty far walk.
yeah,
And you're
yeah.
kind of
And I
going
mean,
uphill a
I
little bit.
mean, the National Mall, it's a 2 mile walk if you were to go from the Capitol all the way to Lincoln Memorial, and so it's worth it. And like it breaks up, because you're just making so many stops along the way. Um, But I Ubered to the Capitol, and then after I got to the Lincoln Memorial, I Ubered out. I wasn't doing any more walking around in the cold.
Did you get to ride the metro at all?
No, I'm definitely not doing that. Definitely wasn't gonna do that. Had no desire.
I had no desire. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because DC has don't they have the Washington Nationals? Don't they? How far do they play from?
I've been to a Nationals game. It's not close, really, from what I remember to like the National Mall. Um, I don't know exactly where it's at, honestly, within the city. Because the only time I ever really saw it was when I went to the specifically to the Nationals Park. Otherwise, whenever I'm driven through DC or gone and hung out in DC to do stuff, it's not like I don't drive past it. I don't, so it's kind of out of the way, I'd imagine. But it's a cool park, I guess. It's like below ground level, so that's interesting. Like you walk down after you walk in a little bit to get to the field level. Um, it's a cool park, you know. I'm trying to go to all 30. I've been to like 13 or something, so
I've never been to the Nationals Park, so I think you can see it though when you like fly into the airport. I think it's on like
you know where
your
to look, I would imagine so. But that's also the tricky part. If you don't know where you're looking, you might not find it.
yeah, I think I want to say it's like on your right side if you're looking out like well obviously
Depends on
depending
what
on which
side,
way.
yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
still the right, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a cool park though.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. But no, that's awesome. It sounds like you guys had a good time outside of the convention itself. I mean,
Yeah.
I was only I was only there just for the show itself, so I had a
Mhm.
pretty quick trip and I left a little earlier than normal just due to weather and weather concerns and
Yeah.
everything. So,
Yeah, no,
but
I had built in that extra day and there was a snowstorm coming in. Luckily, I was actually able to get out on like an earlier flight in the morning instead of waiting till like evening,
mhm.
which I was very thankful for. But yeah, I was glad, to have the extra time and get to go check out everything. The trade show was definitely the star of the show for this trip. There wasn't anything outside of that. Like the trade wasn't cooler than the trade show for me. You know, if I was in DC on any other weekend, then I'd probably say all the other stuff is really great. But the show is the coolest thing.
Right. I think out like the trade show and how it was kind of all like set up with the booths and everything kind of like lining the floor and everything. I thought that was really cool like as far as just the layout and where like not all the glove stuff was in like one area. It was kind of all spread
Yeah, it
out.
was spread out really well.
Yeah, and you had like the hit tracks cages and you had all the other like just little demos and demonstrations. So, I mean, I thought that was a good touch to, obviously the trade show. So, that was pretty sick.
There was
But
one like batting cage. It's something that lays flat on the ground and you put a baseball in like all these different sections and wherever it shoots up, you have to hit it. And I almost flung this bat across the entire trade show. I would have hit someone or broken something expensive. I barely hung on to it with like my bottom hand. But that would have been a tough one. But
so Noah, let's get to the final topic of today. What do you think is the biggest trend or like the biggest trends that you kind of saw from the show itself that you think are kind of like taking over baseball and like kind of in the future, like kind of towards the future of baseball?
yeah. Well, I got to see the PitchCom booth and talk to the guys who do PitchCom or like responsible and the owners or whatever. And that's obviously already made a big breakthrough into the game. All the MLB players are using it now in college and whatnot. Well, some colleges might use a different program, but um, PitchCom and Hit Tracks, everyone's got Hit Tracks, um, and they were there set up. As far as trends for the future of baseball. It's a good question. I feel like there's always, some kind of there's always like a new flashy thing coming out, whether it be maybe a style for gloves or colors and stuff like that, or, a certain way these gloves are looking. Or if it's like, um, a new accessory that players might wear, from chains to arm sleeves to everything like that. But I'd have to really sit and think about what else was there that really makes me think like, oh wow, I'm gonna see this a lot more, you know?
For me, I think the biggest trend that I was kind of seeing amongst a lot of different products and companies was the use of like brighter colors. I was talking to the product manager at Mizuno about this, but I was like, man, like there are so many glove companies and there's just so many companies in general that are now using brighter colors in their products, whether that's like brighter yellows, brighter reds. Those were like the two biggest that I kind of saw amongst, a lot of the different companies. But it's like people are jumping on this like flashy, like, the player wants to look the coolest or, wants to stand out the most with his gear on the field. I mean, arm sleeves, uh, you know, batting elbow guards, batting ankle guards, everything like that. Like it's
Sliding mitts in the back
sl-
pocket.
sliding mates, exactly. Like just the use of like brighter colors and more accessories, I feel like is something that we're gonna start seeing in a lot of different like products, companies, you name it, coming up. So
Sure.
I'm really just I think that's going to be one of the bigger trends we start to see as people start to kind of move away from your traditional blonde, tan, black colors in most products. So
That's a good point. I would say when I think back to like baseball, pretty re a little bit away from recent slash like when we were growing up. Um, when you think back about it, it is kind of like a little bland as far as like the colors of things go. And I definitely do notice a trend of a lot more flashiness going on.
finally, Noah, is there anything else you'd like to say to the people or add to the episode?
No more big talking points. Feel free to check out Derby Sluggers on almost any platform. We always I try to engage, with people in the comments and whatever as much as possible and followers. So check us out. It's a cool community we got going. And I look forward to seeing this video on Heidi Throws.
Absolutely. Everyone, I will be putting Noah's social media links in the description below. So go check out Derby Sluggers. Go and give him a follow on Instagram. And Noah, don't you have a YouTube channel coming up?
Yeah, so I mean, Derby Sluggers is currently active on YouTube. I've just been posting shorts, but I definitely want to. My plans for the future are to make a lot more videos for YouTube, especially if TikTok's going, and some long form content. And it'll be interesting to see what that looks like coming up in the future. So definitely check it out.
Well, finally, thank you, Noah, for joining me on this episode. It was fantastic meeting you in person at the ABCA convention. So I'm so glad we got to connect. And hopefully, man,
Absolutely.
we can run it back next year, go to Columbus. I mean, should be a fun time next year, hopefully.
I'm definitely down to go next year, and let we can run another podcast whenever, and maybe link up between now and the next ABCA, somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Noah, for joining me on this episode. And thank you to everyone who's watching the episode. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. We cannot get this much growth without you guys. So thank you so much for you guys' continued support of the channel. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching the video.